Yo, what's up, everybody? This is Red Wolf Sports Videos, the podcast here where we'll be able to discuss all things sports in an unbiased approach. Not necessarily have any favorite teams or anything like that. So everything that you hear or listen to on this podcast is coming from that unbiased approach. So no agendas being pushed, nothing like that. So you don't have to worry about any biases. Just strictly what we see on the game during the games, and then we kind of just go ahead and give the opinion there. So today we're going to be discussing 10 potential draft steals that just recently got drafted in the NFL draft for the 2020 year. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and just dive right into this one. The first player that I think that may be able to be on this list and have a good career, that guy's going to be Devin Duvernay out of Texas. He got drafted in the third round, 92 overall, to the Baltimore Ravens. The reason why I think that he may be a potential steal is so this draft was just loaded with receivers. You had guys all over this draft. Was known to have a very, very deep class and all different types of receivers. You had big ones, small speedsters, big bodies, route runners, just run after the catch guys. So you had all your different, pretty much your pick of your flavor type of receiver. And I think Devin Duvernay is going to fit what Baltimore does. They were able to get him at a good value pick. So that was great. And then they also were able to match the speed for this team that already has Hollywood Brown. So you bring in Devin Duvernay, who ran a 4.3 as well. So that's going to be some speed that people are going to have to deal with. I mean, you have Lamar Jackson already. You have Hollywood Brown. Now you bring in J.K. Dobbins, who they drafted in the second round at pick 55. And then you also bring in Devin Duvernay, another guy that can take the top off the defense. I think having him and him being potentially in that slot position is just going to be great. So, once as they grow, I don't think he's going to be, a stud initially, but I do think that he has a potential to be a really good player for the Baltimore Ravens as he can develop along with Lamar and with that whole offense, being able to be a slot guy and catch a lot of balls. So another guy, I think that's going to be great, or I shouldn't say a great as a career, but just I think you can look back years down the road and be like, hey, I don't know how this guy fell that far, or how he ended up going here. And that guy's going to be Antonio Gandy-Golden, who was drafted in the fourth round, 142 overall out of Liberty. Antonio Gandy-Golden, went to the Washington Redskins. He's a one of those big body receivers. Not extremely fast, but he's a big body, can catch all different types of balls. I mean, if you have the chance, just go ahead and check out his highlight film. This guy got some spectacular, incredible one-hand catches, just going up and mossing over guys. So if he can translate those abilities into the NFL, it's a huge jump because he didn't play at a powerhouse, at a Power 5 school at Liberty. But hey, I think if you could do that, if you could translate that and develop, 3-4 years down the road, he can be a very good, solid starter. So we'll be able to keep your eye out on him. Kind of speaking off, piggybacking off of that big body type of receiver, another guy that we could be looking at a few years down the road is Gabriel Davis out of UCF. And he was drafted also in the fourth round, 128 overall to the Bills. The reason why I think that this is a good pick is because the Bills already have, I think, some good receivers. Obviously, with trading for Stephon Diggs from the Minnesota Vikings, that's gonna definitely help. But if you look at all their receivers, they're not necessarily bigger guys. A lot of them are small slot speedsters with John Brown, Cole Beasley, Robert Foster. A lot of those guys, they're all like some speedsters type of guys. So bring in Gabriel Davis, who's not slow at all, but he's just a bigger guy. Kind of remind me of potentially being like a Brandon Marshall. Now, I don't think that he's going to be able to have that type of career, or I can't say that he won't, but I'm not, projecting that he's going to be a perennial Pro Bowler or anything like that. But if he was to turn out to be a Pro Bowler, I just wouldn't be surprised. So it'll be interesting to watch this guy develop. Going to another receiver here. It's kind of run on receivers, like as you can see, just kind of like the draft. But another guy that kind of possibly got looked over, and that guy is Tyler Johnson. Now, Tyler Johnson is a receiver out of the University of Minnesota. Was a Golden Gopher there. He got drafted in the 5th round, 161 overall, to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The reason why I think that he fell is because he necessarily doesn't has that eye test, that a lot of the GMs and people are looking for. The guys that can run a 4.3, and you do all these different things. But if you just watch Tyler Johnson, he's a guy that just gets the job done. That are the type of guys that I believe that Tom Brady likes. He likes those slot guys that can just, if you have a 10-yard out, I need you to be at 10 yards. Possibly, actually, if you have a 10-yard out, most likely will need you to be at 12 and you break it off so that you can come back and be able to pick up that first down. So this is the type of guy that I believe that can make some plays and be a reliable player, possibly even this year. I mean, you kind of look at the way their team's built, bringing in Gronk, having O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate. You also have Chris Godwin and Mike Evans on the outside. You can put Tyler Johnson right in there in that slot, and he can battle for a position and possibly, be a somewhat of a contributor. So he'll be a guy to watch. I think looking back, especially playing with the Bucs this year and Tom Brady, people are going to look back and be like, how did Tyler Johnson fall? So it'll be interesting to see what he can do. Hopefully we can have a season so we can see him play this year. That would be ideal. So keep an eye on him. Going on to another receiver, and this guy is just as good as a route runner as Jerry Jeudy and all these other guys here, and that guy is Van Jefferson. Van Jefferson out of University of Florida, started off at Ole Miss, but they ended up going to Florida and being picked in the 2nd round, 57th overall, to the LA Rams. Now, Van Jefferson, you watch his game, he is a prolific route runner, right up there with Jerry Jeudy, I believe. And it helps when your father has played in the league and also coaches as well. So Van Jefferson is going to be a guy to watch. They already have Cooper Kupp coming back as well as Robert Woods. They traded off Brandon Cooks to the Houston Texans. So Van Jefferson has an opportunity to be able to play, fight for a job and get some playing time this year, and watch this guy develop even better than what he already is. So it'll be interesting to see. He's going to be another guy that I think that people are going to look at and be like, man, this class was just loaded with receivers. So Van Jefferson is that guy to watch out for. Going out to another team here who actually this guy wasn't drafted, but after watching this guy's highlight film, it just made my jaw drop, man. And this guy is Bronson Richsteiner, undrafted player out of Kennesaw State, and he's going to the Baltimore Ravens. Now, how are you thinking, man? This is going to be crazy, and the rich is getting richer. The Baltimore Ravens is bringing in another guy that's going to be able to help that prolific running game, help, smash some guys in their mouth. It's going to be interesting to see how they use Bronson, because they already have Patrick Ricard, who's a Pro Bowl fullback who was also undrafted as well. And Patrick Ricard is a big man, being a 300-pounder who can play both fullback and defensive line, defensive tackle. I see them bring him in sometimes. But Bronson, I think, after them trading away Hayden Hurst and not necessarily drafting a tight end this year, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Bronson, he makes the team. He can play some H-back, he can play some tight end. This guy can play some fullback, maybe even sometimes stay in as a running back and possibly catch a screen pass, or even stay in and be a pass protector as a blocker as well. And it doesn't hurt when you're a fullback and you can run a 4.4. That's what they're saying out here. So this guy Bronson is going to be a guy to watch. Another guy here that we're going to be looking at, and I think is going to be great as well, is Bryan Edwards the receiver out of South Carolina, who went in the third round, pick 81 overall to the Oakland Raiders. Now, the Oakland Raiders had drafted a lot of receivers this year with notably Henry Ruggs and also Lynn Bowden Jr. out of Kentucky. Versatile player, but Bryan Edwards is going to be a guy that I think is going to be able to play a big role with them as well, because he's going to be one of their bigger receivers. They bring in a lot of speed. So they have their tight end who played great last year. They have Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller, the tight end that they had last year, who was really great. So Bryan Edwards, if they can develop him, he's another guy that can really make some plays, win some jump balls for Derek Carr, and hopefully they can make some things happen. Going back to another guy who wasn't drafted as well, but he's notable because we all know his father, and that's Thaddeus Moss, tight end out of LSU for the Washington Redskins. I think it can possibly be a good pick for them if he can make the team, just because they've been kind of starving at that tight end position, especially because Jordan Reed, he has just haven't been able to fight off that injury bug, especially with a lot of concussions and just foot injuries. So if they can get Thaddeus Moss in there and have him possibly even, if he has to take a redshirt year this year, or just, get a little bit of playing time, hey, you can look back and just be like, hey, he's a solid starter. I don't know how he went undrafted. So he's another guy I think he's going to be motivated to show that he should have been drafted. And it'll be nice because he'll be going with a young quarterback in Dwayne Haskins that he can grow with as well. So I think a lot of these players that I've already named is going to be great because they can grow with their younger quarterbacks, and that's going to help. Going to another offensive player here, a guy that is kind of going to get slept on just because he went to a smaller school, and that's Quez Watkins out of Southern Miss. Went to the Eagles in the sixth round, 200 pick overall. If you watch Quez Watkins, he is a guy that can make some plays. He can get the ball, and he can take it the distance. He can beat you over the top. He can just make some plays, man. So he's gonna be able to go in. They drafted Jalen Reagor. They got Deshaun Jackson coming back, along with Alshon Jeffrey. So it doesn't hurt when you have all those guys plus those really good tight ends with Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz. So it's just gonna be good for Carson Wentz this year. So hopefully Quez Watkins, he can possibly make the team and be another guy a few years down the road where he just develops and learns under Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson. So it'll just be interesting to watch. Just keep your eye on him. And then the last guy, the final guy that I actually thought would have been drafted a lot higher, and this guy is Antoine Brooks Jr., safety out of Maryland, and he went to the Steelers in the sixth round, 198 overall. The reason why I think that he can possibly be good if he can make the team and develop a few years is because he's going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, team that's just known for defense, along with their AFC rival with the Baltimore Ravens. Those teams are just known for their defenses, and they're known for their safeties. I mean, you had Troy and Ed and just got some guys back there that can just make plays. So if Antoine Brooks, he can get with some of those guys with Edmonds and Fitzpatrick and just continue to learn, soak up some knowledge from those guys and just develop, he could be another guy that you can look back on down the road and just see like, hey, I don't know how this guy fell this far. So if he can just develop, like I said, he might be another guy that can make some things happen. Possibly make the special teams roster this year if he can, and just develop more on his man coverage. I know that's one reason not why he failed, because he can make some tackles, but sometimes he can just get lost in coverage, and it's really hard when you're safety because you're playing on that number 2 receiver that's usually the slot guy. So those guys are usually the faster of the receivers. More often than not, those are the guys that's going to be running, 4.4s, 4.3s, and sometimes 4.2s. So it's really hard to cover those guys when you're 10 yards off, and that receiver is just, that slot guy, he's just coming right up and he's just pressing you, and he has a three-way go. He can go out, in, or he can just run straight by you. So that could be difficult. But that just wraps up my 10 guys. Devin Duvernay, Antonio Gandy-Golden, Gabriel Davis, Tyler Johnson, Van Jefferson, Bronson Ricksteiner, Brian Edwards, Thaddeus Moss, Quez Watkins, and Antoine Brooks Jr., who went to the Steelers. So those are my 10 guys that I think that can possibly be some draft steals, draft sleepers. I want to know what your thoughts are. Let me know who you think, who you agree with, who you disagree with, and who's a guy that I probably just didn't, I missed out on and didn't have on this list. I just want to know what you guys are thinking. So go ahead and let me know in that comment section. Like the video for more videos, and then go ahead and subscribe. Thanks, guys.